Welcome to One Up Fantasy, helping you one up the fantasy football competition. For the latest in Chicago sports news, visit ChiCitySports.com. And now, here are the hosts of One Up Fantasy, Stephen Johnson and Chris Jackle. Kaboom!
What is up, One Up crew? Welcome in to another episode of One Up Fantasy here on Chi City Sports and the Tape Never Lies Network. I'm Stephen Johnson. He is Chris Jackle.
Hello.
And it is finally here, the time that every fantasy player loves, and that would be bye weeks. Not really.
Fun fucking times, Mr. Johnson. Fun times to be had. Bye weeks and injuries. What can be more successful for fucking fantasy wins, you know?
Absolutely.
How are we doing tonight, Stephen?
Hey, I tell you what, doing all right. I will say this is the first run-of-the-mill time where I actually had to take a deep dive into waiver wires. With as many leagues as I have, I had like set an hour aside from what I have normally. So, you know, it's getting used to the norm here for the next 8 weeks or so. Yep. So we'll see what ends up happening. How about yourself?
I'm right there with you. I know my alarm's going to go off in about 2 hours to remind me to make sure I did take a look at the fantasy wires, because I seem to forget some things every once in a while. So with that being said, yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, it's strategizing. It's really trying to find, you know, that one or two guys that are going to put you over the top, you know, for that week, or somebody that may, you know, end up in your starting lineup, you know.
Right.
And there's some players that we may talk about later that, you know, fit that bill. But it's just bye weeks make some people nervous. I know it's apparently Ralphie in the chat likes bye weeks, or he actually loves them. You know, so that's good for him. And I hope I don't play him this week, because I have some decisions to make. I'm banking on some fucked up shit, but I hope your rosters work out. But anywho, let's get to it, man. What's going on?
There's definitely much to talk about, as you alluded to, some injuries that are having some fun along with these bye weeks. Once again, the running back position. You'd think that there'd be another position that could get hit by the injury bug, but no, we're just going to stay at running back and knock down two more top-tier options that people picked up in drafts this year. So we'll get to that. Their replacements while they are on the shelf, as well as, like you mentioned, there's some waiver wire pieces out there at certain positions that actually could end up providing some top tier numbers. Can you believe it?
Hey, no, I can't.
No?
Not anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett said. You know, it's quite shocking every week. Somebody seems to just blow up and go off. This past week was just crazy. I haven't seen some of the scores that I saw in a long time. You know, you see that one game or matchup in your league where you're like, damn, you know, 200 points, holy shit. But you look around and it's like there's 4 matchups in there, you know, 190 to 170. Like, people were scoring tons of points because there were many players that just balled out last week, week 5. I mean, some career highs, some career lows, but more importantly, the career highs. And I want to kind of kick it back to you, Mr. Johnson, with respects to the top performers. I mean, you had, I think, like a 49-year-old to go out, you know, Mr. Brady, but still, I mean, Lamar Jackson. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna ramble, so I'm gonna go back to you. You know, who are your top performers? Statistically wise, I want you to break that down too. You know, with respects to like how many people did well, and then just the number of points that some of these guys got. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, this has been a wild week. And I mean, for all fantasy related purposes, an outlier week compared to what fantasy players are used to out of this. Like you mentioned, you'll see a 200 point score here or there pop up. But I mean, it was not a uncommon thing to see multiple teams with that high of scores because of the way that things went. And you look at how things broke down, there were 13 players in week 5 that eclipsed 30 fantasy points in full PPR leagues. We're lucky amazing if we get maybe 6 or 7 a week. Week 5 gave us 13. And you want to hear something even crazier?
Please.
You want to talk about
I do.
players that got over 20 fantasy points. 50
Wow.
players eclipsed 20 points in week 5. Normally we'll get around 40 on average. No, we got 50 this week. For whatever was in the water, it was just a completely...
Defenses just decided to take a week off.
Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. And not only that, but we're also seeing, performances, shocking performances. Hell, Davis Mills did good of all quarterbacks. I mean, it was just one of those weeks, and you look at the top of the chart, you have Justin Herbert, you have Lamar Jackson, and
that was amazing
one
last
of the
night.
Greatest Monday Night Football games I think I've watched.
It was a great sports night for me, just in terms of watching my Red Sox.
Your Red Sox moving on.
March on into the ALCS. Fuck Tampa. But with that being said, I told my buddy Jay I was going to stop saying that every time I stopped talking. No, but that Monday night game was something else. That was just great football. I'm not a fan of either team. I have Lamar on one of my teams. I was getting trounced, so it didn't even matter. But he was amazing. He's not much of a thrower apparently, but he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, I mean, you want to know pain. The Scott Fish Bowl, the way that the scoring is set up, you get extra points for each completion. And you also get points taken away for incompletions. But the extended stats, if you look at the overall box score and the expanded box score for Lamar Jackson last night, he had the highest completion percentage of any quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 400 yards.
Incompletions? That's unbelievable.
I mean, it was 84%, I think, is what he completed.
Yeah.
He scored 68 points.
I didn't even look, to be honest. I was getting killed so bad. I'm going to take a look right now, actually, to see how
I mean, on average, most leagues he scored around 40, but Scott Fishbowl, he scored in the 60s. I thought I had a game wrapped up last night, and I go to look, and I lost by 6. I was up by 60 points. And I'm thinking, I got it in the bag. I wake up this morning and here's Lamar Jackson.
61.2 points.
Oh,
wow.
Man.
Wow.
Painful. But, I mean, you got those two. You have Tom Brady throwing for 5 touchdowns against the Miami Dolphins. Josh Allen having himself a day against the Kansas City Chiefs, a Chiefs team that is looking rough. And I mean rough. No, those are your only 4 quarterbacks in those 13 players, running backs galore as well. You had Myles Gaskin. You had Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler. Wide receivers to catch it up with that. It's Devonte Adams, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, and Antonio Brown, who also went off.
I have to say, I just want to interject. Sorry, Stephen. You were high on him at the season started, one of our first shows. You said AB is a guy that you were, he was one of your sleepers. And if anyone listened out there, kudos to you, because I think that's just, he's been dominant. He's been pretty pre 2019. So what's that make it? 2018 when he was doing his best. I mean, playing his best, and he was off the edibles or whatever. But he's him and Brady action, and
just a wild kind of renaissance for Antonio Brown. I mean, he ended the year last year with some pretty solid performances. He was a top 25 wide receiver when he came back with the Buccaneers. And now, he had one dud week thrown in there this year. And other than that, I mean, he's been rolling, absolutely rolling. So, I mean, I didn't expect this much out of Antonio Brown. I don't think anybody was, especially with the fact you're fighting with Evans and Godwin and everybody. But all of a sudden, it looks like Antonio Brown is the favorite option of one Tom Brady, which I'm still trying to wrap my mind around.
It's the security that they have. It speaks to the relationship, and I hate to say it, and it's going to be like diarrhea coming out of my mouth, but Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb, that relationship is something, truth be told, that's why Rodgers wanted him back, because of that bond and connection. Granted, AB is probably 3 times the receiver that Cobb is, but that is still, it's just, I think there's that in play here, not just football and X's and O's, but that the work they put in, and hey, what am I?
That one game in New England that started it all. But again, just insane. Just one tight end in that top 13, that being Mark Andrews, who had himself one hell of a game last night as well. I mean, who didn't have a good game last night, I think, is the better question out of that Monday night game. Hell, Carson Wentz had a solid game.
He
Michael
he
Pittman
looked really good, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy because you think Baltimore, you think defense, and just everything that that defense is capable of and has been capable of. He put up 22 points. He was a part of that 50 players. I'm just still trying to wrap my mind around Davis Mills, though. Davis Mills was quarterback 3 this week.
Yeah, I was doing a little research.
Or not,
I saw that.
Not quarterback 3, quarterback 5.
Yeah,
Or
no,
six,
he was top
six,
5. Yeah,
six. Yeah.
I had depending on where you got your info. I had him at QB5 on the week, but like still that Davis Mills. Hey, it's like his 18th football game, like organized football game, I think, because he was hurt, whatever. I know he had some very short collegiate career and whatever, but it's
I mean the
somebody's got to throw the football in an NFL game. So Davis Mills was maybe better lucky than good, or you're better off good than lucky. Who knows? But
who knows? Yeah, exactly. Who does know? And I mean, it was a hell of a slate coming in. But I wonder if this is only a sign of things to come. We're going to talk about injuries here, at least to the running back position, coming up in a second here. But between the way that the game has been evolving, the fact that officials have been, we'll say, protecting offensive players quite a bit more than letting the defense just do their thing. It wouldn't shock me if we see something like this again once or twice more, especially now with the longer season, that there's going to be some really gassed teams, and all it takes is a few certain matchups to line up properly, and we could be talking about another explosive week.
And just to piggyback that, Stephen, there's been all these injuries on the offensive side of the ball, but this is a fantasy show. But in reality, there are a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So there are many teams that are struggling, trying to fill holes on both sides, and Shane cut that. But with all that information, like you got to see that again. You kind of think so, right? Like there was a point that was made about defensive backs for the Colts being, that they didn't have anybody in the secondary. They lost someone in the middle of the game, and then it's just like Jackson knew what to do. You see that all the time in the NFL, but it's definitely impacting these defenses where teams are just getting abused, and you're seeing these high scores all over the league. And the teams that stink, like the Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're still putting up some points too. And there's some players there that have some fantasy relevance. So, there's plenty of meat on the bone, I think, on many rosters. You just kind of need to, like you said earlier, pay attention, look for some trends, listen to One Up, and try to kind of, make the right move and, see what you can do and try to get a W for week 6.
But mostly listen to One Up.
Yeah.
Well, talking about all the injuries, we'd be foolish not to bring up the Pandora's box of running back injuries. I think that's the best way to put it here. Through 5 weeks, we have seen injuries to Christian McCaffrey, to Dalvin Cook, to Joe Mixon, to Edmonds, to the list goes up. Hell, Cam Akers didn't even make it to the regular season. Same with J.K. Dobbins. And now week 5, here we are, Saquon Barkley, a freak injury.
Dead play, right? I wasn't watching the game. I forget. Explain it to me. I forget. Someone was saying it was kind of just like a wild thing that happened to him.
Yeah, so incomplete pass happens. Okay. He steps on Jordan Lewis, a corner for the Cowboys, rolls his ankle. He's in a boot.
The picture.
I mean, my guess is he's probably out 2-3 weeks at minimum.
Yeah, it's a low ankle sprain, which isn't the high, which may be better off than the high ankle, right? Those seem to last a little longer. I mean, I've sprained the ankle playing ball, basketball, and that's no fun. But I'm also not a professional athlete, so and have the amenities at my disposal.
Yeah, I mean, with everything that Saquon has also dealt with, this isn't his first ankle injury either.
Yep.
And so, here they are with another turn to the backup running backs.
Devonte Booker.
This time, Devonte Booker. He finishes with 16 carries for 42 yards. He had 16 receiving yards
right?
and a touchdown. Yeah, it was a solid day for him overall.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the best on the yards per carry average, but still getting things done, getting into the end zone.
Twice.
And Joe Judge kind of being quiet on what's going on with Saquon. Does say they dodged a bullet, but there really wasn't much else there.
So that's kind of like
we'll
what
kind
the
of wait
bone
and
didn't
see.
pull off the tendon didn't come off the bone or whatever, so we can just who knows? But this isn't a doctor show. This is a fantasy show. But yeah, no, you know what I'm talking about. Severity of sprained ankles there's many grades of them, but hopefully he's back. I know a lot of us. I know Logan has him in our league, and he's always hemming and hawing. He was out, now he's back. Now, he just started bad, so. I hope he's back. I'm a Saquon fan. I'd like to see a guy overcome adversity, come back from that injury. But also on the fantasy side, I mean, it sucks if you drafted him because you're going to get probably half the projected points that you were looking at when you drafted him, just based on the injury so far.
Yep. And, for somebody that they were kind of weaning back in from an ACL injury to begin with, you never know what's going to happen there as well, trying to make sure that, is he glass? Is it kind of rough around the edges there? Meanwhile, you have Clyde Edwards-Hilaire spraining his MCL. Yeah. It looked a lot worse, but he's going to be out a few weeks, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. And in steps Darrell Williams, who is received outside of the fact that CEH is now on the shelf, double-digit touches each of the last 3 weeks. He's now the main bell cow there. Jerick McKinnon waiting in the shadows as that second running back. Out of these two guys, out of Booker, out of Williams, who would you rather have here for this next 2-3 game stretch?
Shit, good question. First off, we were high. Well, I was high on Danny Dimes last week. I thought he was going to come out and put up a good showing. That did not happen. He did have his bell rung and he was injured and
a little woozy.
Yes. So, as he comes back and tries to get himself underneath, I think realistically you have a chance of getting either of them if you need a running back first and foremost. They're rostered 11% and 19%. Respectively, Booker and Williams. Booker plays the Rams, the Panthers, and the Chiefs, and obviously Williams plays Washington, Tennessee, and then he plays the Giants. I like any offense with Patrick Mahomes. So I think I'm going to go with Mr. Williams. That's just me. I don't know if that means they're going to abandon the run as much. I mean, I know he got double-digit touches, but at the same time, you have plenty of weapons over there. I know Kelsey got hurt. He had a stinger in the shoulder and the neck area. They're monitoring that. They're hoping he's going to be okay. And that could hurt. That may
Tyreek Hill dealing with
Tyreek Hill too. So I might be talking myself out of a pick here, but I'm going to stick with Darrell and I just think that Chiefs offense, their defense can't stop anybody. So it's not the offense is going to be on the field probably more than the defense, right? So more opportunity for him to do something. So just playing the percentages, and I think I'm going to go Williams. How about you?
Yeah, I'm leaning Williams as well. I mean, Devonte Booker, I feel, has been just about everywhere. He's 29 years old. He's getting up there. He's been that journeyman guy.
He's not like a bell cow, though. It's not like he has a ton of carries on his legs. And, so I hear you. I'm not disagreeing, but there's something to be said about a backup.
Right.
That,
it's just there's nothing there that necessarily excites me about Booker as a runner. And I think that's the thing that I kind of get hung up on is, looking at what Williams brings to that Chiefs offense and really what they were starting to do. Week 3, Clyde Edwards loses a fumble.
Yeah.
In comes Williams, actually out touches CEH in that game. And so they trust him there. They trust him in the red zone. They trust him in the passing game, which is shocking enough because CEH is one of the more reliable receiving backs in the league overall in the pedigree that he brought in from LSU. I'm with you there, though, when you're talking about an offense with Patrick Mahomes. They haven't been focusing in as much on the running back position in the passing game, but I think that this might change things. I'm not too worried about Jerick McKinnon, and I think this might be an opportunity for Williams to kind of pick it up and
separate himself.
Separate himself and really even beyond CEH coming back, because it's not like he was setting the world on fire through these first 5 weeks and what he was able to do. Yeah, he was kind of picking it up here these last two, but it wasn't anything that made you say this is the guy that we drafted in the first round, which again,
I read today,
running back.
The Chiefs were kicking the tires on Marlon Mack. I didn't, and I saw it. George in the chat said that too. Like, there's some rumors that Mack may be on the block right now for some teams, because Indy, that's a luxury for Indy over there. Then again, wouldn't you maybe want to hold on to him just the way the seasons have been going for teams? It's like, what would you do?
I mean,
I had Mack in the dynasty
Nyheim Hines,
but
I mean, Nyheim Hines is there. I think that,
and they just paid him. We talked about that. I think week 2, right? Like,
So I mean, there is that piece you got to keep in mind. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Matt goes on the move, and it wouldn't shock me if he does wind up in Kansas City. I think that would be a decent fit for what they have going on. Again, with the way that the injuries just continue to fall left and right, it's only a matter of time until one of these teams says, okay, enough is enough. We really need to see if we can do something, especially if it's going to be a contender, and what may or may not, be on the table for trying to fix a running game if you're looking at a not so deep room at the position. Really, I'm just racking my brain now, just trying to think if anyone else makes sense for Marlon Mack outside of Kansas City. I mean, if this was a longer term injury for New York, I could easily see Mack even going there.
I mean, if they were, but I think they're set with where they're at. Damien Williams and Khalil Herbert. I mean, they definitely stepped up, and we talked about that on Sunday after the game, after the show, or after the game on BHL. But don't forget BHL every day or every game, post game after every Bears win or loss. Join us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twizzler, whatever the fuck, any platform. So let them know.
And it's at Soldier Field on Sunday, right?
What do you think our chances are going into the game? I know that was asked in the chat. Give your fanboy realistic, how you feeling? I don't know if you're going to be on the show tomorrow night for bold predictions, but that's
I gotta say I'm feeling like 40-60 right now. That's as strong as I'm probably going to feel is 40-60.
I'll say that 40-60. What do you mean? So what's the score?
I still think the Packers win. I still think they win like 31-24.
You think 21. The Bears can score some points? Okay.
I think they will. It might not be in a manner which we expect them to, or I think trash time might make it a little bit closer than it might be, but I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
It's tough. It's tough. I was listening to Aaron Rodgers talk today on McAfee, and he was saying, rivalry week is a big week. He had a lot of respect for the Bears, and I don't think it was just bullshit. It was just more like, he thinks Khalil Mack's one of the best players in the NFL. So there's a lot of people that think he's overrated. And when you hear a guy like Rodgers come out and just say it, think there's some weight to that.
Yeah.
And he said Akeem Hicks is a guy that he's got issues with, and he always has to know where he's at. Great interview. And I think there's he knows the Packers have to bring their A game. That's what he said. And so I know going into it, the Packers aren't taking the Bears lightly. And the Bears got a real shot. I think it's going to end up being a defensive situation that wins it for the Bears. I think it's going to be low scoring, actually. I'm thinking neither team is going to score over 20 points. So I'm thinking like a 18-14 or 18-17, something like that, where we
good old hard-nosed fight.
Yeah, and we inch one out, So Cairo Santos is the MVP. I don't care if he kicks some fucking field goals, if that's how we get 18.
Hey, whatever it takes, right?
Just keep the streak alive, Give me 6 for 6. Sorry, we got lost in the weeds as Bears fans, but
hey, that's all right. That's all right. I will say this last thing on it. I mean, I will say this. I am very excited to see how this defensive line approaches the Packers offensive line, who has not been that great this year. I think that's definitely up for the most interesting thing about this weekend, in the fact that Robert Quinn is healthy.
Yeah.
I mentioned Khalil Mack. You have Travis Gibson, who has been fantastic this year, along with the many interior defensive line pieces as well. So very excited about what might end up happening there. But we'll see.
Sorry.
We'll see.
I digress back to fantasy football. There may not be much fantasy to talk about outside Cairo Santo.
I mean, he's not wrong. So I mean, I'll be Mr. Pessimistic. I don't care. Especially if it means something
I like
good
your
in the
reverse
long
psychology,
run.
Ralph. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's in my mind. Go in with low expectations and then feel like I'm, feeling a little bit better about things. Last thing here before we move on to our speed run here. The tight end position, as we all know, it's been one of a minefield. The mindset of streaming tight ends week to week is a myth, as far as I'm concerned. And it has been up and down and up and down. You look at the top 5 tight ends as it stands right now after 5 weeks. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, who literally got half of his points on the year so far in week 5. Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller. That's your top 5 in full PPR. Yeah. But with that being said, we see the guy there on the graphic at the bottom of the screen, and Dawson Knox, the tight end number 3, Dalton Schultz, the tight end number 4 down in Dallas, as well as some other surprising names, I guess is the best way to put it. Kyle Pitts finally getting himself moving as well. David Njoku coming back from the dead, putting up 27 points for the Browns. Are you nice feeling to see? Like, yeah, I mean, it only took him 4 years, but hey, are you feeling like there are a few more options starting to rise from the ashes here?
Absolutely.
Or is this more of a situation kind of like what we talked about off the top of the show, where it's just, hey, it's one of those weird weeks. We can't rely on this happening every week. Or, is this something where, you can feel okay not getting one of the top 3 tight ends at the beginning of your draft?
It's the latter. I really do. I think it's more, you can get by TE8 now. Tight end 8 is a lot nicer than it was last year for you. I think even, I don't have it in front of me, but, the top 10 tight ends, I know you listed the top 5, and we talked about it last week, where 2 of the guys in the top 6 were rostered on like less than 40% of the leagues, which is crazy. I grabbed Knox in 2 leagues last week because of what you said, and it paid dividends for me. And, I played him over Hawkinson, and I'm seeing
that also paid dividends.
Exactly, because TJ started out, he was great week 1 and 2. Granted, it's the Lions, and we always felt, the tight end is a guy that is a security blanket for this quarterback, especially a young quarterback or a new quarterback. It's just now you're seeing more injury. It's going to go back to some of the things we talked about: injuries, connections with quarterbacks, and the importance in the tight end, the connections with the quarterback and the tight end, and not new, but the way tight ends are now used in a lot more of the offense. You see a lot more skilled tight ends, and I think you're just seeing the ability to, not only these guys can block, but they're making hell of like athletic plays, and you name them: Knox, Waller, Schultz. I mean, before Gronkowski got destroyed and broke it, 8 ribs, he was right there too. And it's just, I think you can either, now's the time to try to make a trade for a tight end too. Also, if you're kind of loaded up on one end, some people don't believe in that, like tight end strength, like we're talking about now. You could probably go get one on the cheap, and give up one, like a 1-for-1, and you could fill with your utilizing your tight end here, and putting that, to good use, with respects to fantasy, Shane. So
yeah, I mean, it's a little wild right now. You have George Kittle going on the IR with an injury. Rob Gronkowski, like you mentioned.
Who's their backup?
Ross Dwelly. Is the backup tight end in San Francisco. You look at the rest of the top 12, Dallas Goedert, who has kind of been a dud, and for whatever reason, Zach Ertz is still getting like plentiful playing time in Philadelphia.
Makes too much money to not throw him the ball, I think.
I guess. Noah Fant is at 11, Mike Gesicki at 10. Hunter Henry seems to be the guy pulling away there in New England over Jonnu Smith, who you can find way down at tight end 22.
Surprised
so
by that,
far
to
on
be
the
honest with you, Stephen. I really thought going into the year, he was drafted a lot higher than he's performing. And with Hunter, I think he was just kind of knocking some of the rust off coming back from the injury. He had some offseason surgery. I think he's feeling healthy. He's due for an injury at some point, unfortunately, based on his history. But I would ride the Hunter train until it falls off the tracks, if you will.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a smart move. It's funny how we all kind of got hyped up over some training camp videos that showed Jonnu Smith lined up all over the field, and the Patriots are really going to get him involved, and boom goes the dynamite. Not too much going on there up in New England.
Money well spent.
Yeah, seriously.
He gets killed up here in the New England media. He does not fare well out here. The media definitely does not. You make a lot of money, you don't perform like any big market. I mean,
exactly.
But still, it's no bueno for him.
Not surprised whatsoever that that's the case. But again, plenty of options. Kyle Pitts, like we said, finally getting going. Maybe it was him finally getting his feet under him, or was it the fact that Atlanta literally had no other passing options outside of
Customs fucking gave him a cavity search and woke his ass up, and he fucking had to come to play. Who knows? But yeah, that was nice to see. Kyle Pitts is a hell of a player. And there were some doubters out there, and that was creeping in. People are trying to buy low, and and if you were able to get him, great. If not, you held and held the line, then good for you. It paid off. So.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we've got our next segment coming up. It is going to one we haven't done in a while, but hey, we're here. We're going to have some fun.
A little different too, I think, right? Yeah.
It is. We're going to talk about cutting bait on some of your worst draft picks. It's a speed run. That is correct. Is it time to cut bait on some draft picks here in week number 6 now with bye weeks off and running? And so what we're going to do is Jackle's going to give me 5. I'm going to give him 5 of the names that are underperforming and probably causing many questions to run through your head.
All right.
On whether or not they should still be on your fantasy rosters. And so it'll be quick. We'll go with the names. Keep or cut is
keep or cut.
Question.
All right.
Keep or cut.
So I'm giving you my 5 and you're going to say keep or cut, or I'm going to get. All right.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
If you want to start off and shoot them at me, and then
you want to go 1 for 1, go down the list, or how do you want to do it?
Let's just go 5 and 5.
Okay.
So
here we go.
Fire away.
This is surprising. I'm going to, like we said, big names here. Odell Beckham Jr. Are we keeping him or cutting him?
Yeah, I'll keep him. I think for what the Browns have there, they got to throw it to somebody. Eventually, they got to throw it to him. Get him deep down the field.
He had that big drop on that 4th down, and it was like they just said, "You're not getting." They don't. And speaking of connections, quarterback receiver, it's not there with Baker and OBJ. It just seems, there was a lot of trade talk. I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it, but regardless, you may be onto something. But I'm cutting him. I just think. I don't even know if you want my opinion, but 19 targets in 5 games,
it's rough.
124 yards. It's like, come on. I mean, granted, he's only played in 3 games, so 19 targets in 3 games. So, but still, 6 targets a game. You got 124 yards. It's Odell.
For who he is. Yeah.
All right.
Who's next?
Here we go. J.D. McKissick. I'm going to cut. All right. Okay. Have to agree with you there. Next, this one may hurt a little bit just because he's a Bear, but Cole Kmet. We keeping him or cutting Cole? Speaking of tight ends, is he one of the top 10 tight ends?
I got to cut him. Gotta cut him.
He hasn't topped 25 yards since week 1.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. It's painful, but got to cut him.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Brandon Ayook. We've been talking a lot about it. He's taken up some time on this show. Three segments now.
I've given up on Ayook. I don't think there's anything there that's really going to get me excited about him. For
Debo's the guy. Samuel's the man.
I mean, especially with Kittle out and still can't really pull up much together. Yeah. It's too tough for me to move on to.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Who's the last one?
I got a couple here. All right. Trey Sermon. Shallower leagues. I'm wondering, what your thoughts are.
I got to cut him. Yep. I think it was.
Think the Jeff Wilson coming back is a big play here?
Yeah, there's Jeff Wilson, but there's also the fact that, I think the line was drawn in the sand with the backs getting healthier. He only had one carry this last week. It's just not it's not looking good for Trey Sermon. Something about those 4th round running backs just ain't working there. So, gotta cut bait, and there's some better options, especially this week, like we mentioned with Booker and Williams. You got to go out and get them, and I would use Sermon as
Elijah
that guy.
Mitchell too. He's healthy. He obviously they're going to look to use him as well. But I think Jeff Wilson's going to be somebody that, speaking of someone to pick up. Yeah, Jeff Wilson's a guy that I think would be a guy to target. He's not rostered in many leagues. But all right, my turn. Let's go.
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ronald Jones.
Cut. Afterthought.
Jalen Waddle.
Keep.
Okay.
Regardless, I'm keeping him. I like Miami.
There's something there.
I just think he's granted he's a rookie. Tua stinks. He's hurt. Brissett, he's got the potential. I like him. It may just be more like the homer side of me. I love rookies. So with that being, regardless, here we go. Go next.
Damien Harris. It's been kind of a dud for the last
I'm going to cut him because I think his backup is the guy to pick up now, Stevenson. So I'm cutting Damien. Go ahead.
Yeah, Stevenson with 11 carries in week 5.
Yeah.
All right, that's 1, 2, 3. I got 2 more. Curtis Samuel, are you holding out for the injury?
I already cut him. I cut him last week, so I am cut all day long. Yeah, he's just not coming back the way he was supposed to from the injury. Then he had the groin, and it's just whatever. There's better options out there.
He gone.
Yep. Adios, muchachos.
I'm gonna talk about a surprising way. I'm pretty sure I know where you're gonna go, but it's safe to say he has been trash this year so far. Miles Sanders.
Oh fuck! I haven't cut him yet.
I've seen him start to drop in free. I've seen him on waiver wires. It's happening. It's starting to happen. Are you holding on with hope here?
I took him out of my start. I would hold him just because of the potential for maybe one more week, but especially with buys coming and running backs, the way it's working, you probably want to hold him just as a security blanket in the event that you lose your top guy and you need a running back. So I'm holding him. More of just like out of pure desperation, not because I like him.
Funny enough, right now in full PPR leagues, Miles Sanders is running back 30. Kenneth Gainwell, running back 31.
Wow.
They are neck and neck.
Not like that's getting you a lot of fantasy points either way, though. But
I mean, there's just something. There is something about Sanders that is just not going, and I wish I understood what it was, but it's painful. It is painful.
I read a stat somewhere at the beginning of the season something about if Jalen Hurts, I think if he threw for like over 240, I forget what it was last year, Sanders always performed well. Like it was this correlation with, I don't remember it. I'm going to blame just whatever for me not remembering this. So with that, Hurts did well. I think it was like 260 yards or 240 yards. Gaskin ran for over 80. I don't remember off the top of my head, so don't quote me here, but he did very well. And I had high hopes going into the season for him, and but I'm still holding on to him right now just because of the running backs around the league.
All right. I tell you, like we said, the running back situation is precarious. But I mean, to sit here and, you draft a guy in third, fourth, fifth round in that range, and you're sitting here with an average of 10 points per game in full PPR, like that's not cutting it. That is not cutting it for a guy that you expected to be a bell cow. And I think you do have to hold on to him, but that doubt needs to start creeping into the back of your head in terms of, okay, like if the right situation comes along on the waiver wire, is this the guy that I cut bait with? It sucks. It sucks that he's right
that
now.
Would hurt. That would hurt.
Yeah, he's probably the biggest non-injury bust so far this year.
I just want to Cherie high, but I would actually, if I had Elijah Mitchell on my roster, I would probably cut him. I think he's a guy to stay away from right now. I think with Corey Davis getting the majority of the targets there, I don't think it's there for Elijah right now. I was reading.
Well, Elijah Mitchell's the Niners.
Niners. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Michael Carter. You're thinking Michael Carter.
Oh my goodness. That was horrible.
Elijah Mitchell. Yeah. That's the running back to take in San Francisco.
Yes. Yeah. What am I doing? Who am I thinking of? Cherie, I apologize. That is awful.
Are you thinking Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, Michael Carter?
I was completely wrong on the position there. I was thinking of someone altogether. The wide receiver for
Elijah Moore. You're thinking Elijah Moore.
That's
yeah. Hey, you had the right first initial.
Hey, I'm gonna blame that one on the weed. So there we go. All right. So shit.
Take Elijah Mitchell. Take Elijah Mitchell.
Definitely.
Hold on to him, and he seems like he's the guy with what Kyle Shanahan wants to do for the time being. Again, Jeff Wilson coming back from the PUP here probably very soon. Logan, my condolences with picking up Miles Sanders in the second round. One more cut option, Robbie Anderson.
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, 140 yards through 5 weeks.
He was on my list out of my.
It's mind blowing. This is a guy that led the Panthers in targets a year ago, led them in receptions.
136 targets last year, Stephen.
It is the most bizarre thing. He felt like such a steal at his ADP, floating around that 7/8 round.
Yep.
And he has not turned on that whatsoever. It's been painful. It's been absolutely painful.
That's all he had. Since then, 11
not
targets.
Great.
He drew 11 targets in week 4, 7 last week, and it is just borderline droppable. So if you think about it, there's better play out there.
Absolutely. Well, we've got one more run of things to hit up here, and that would be taking a look at the mess of the waiver wire in week number 6. And again, there's plenty. Logan is just venting hardcore, and I cannot.
I feel like Logan has like 12 running backs on his roster. I was like, how does he have this many guys on his team? I'm like, we don't even have a taxi squad lined up on Sleeper. So I'm like, what's the deal here?
I mean, if there's any position to load up, I guess running back would be the right one to do it.
And he's got everybody's backup too, so he's sitting pretty.
He'll be good. Good. But let's take a look at some waiver wire pickups for this week. Obviously,
we talked about a few already too, right?
Yep, absolutely we have. And again, it's with some of these guys, I don't necessarily know if you'll need to worry about them getting swiped when waivers clear. But again, gotta take a look. First, there's going to be the big options like Booker and Williams that they're going to be sitting there. Kadarius Toney is another
Booker's
one.
Booker's rostered like in 11% of leagues right now too. Just to add, Stephen, that's pretty crazy.
They're all going to go skyrocketing up, obviously, especially with running back. Let's start with wide receiver. There is one guy in particular. I think he's going to be beneficial to the Lions offensive passing attack with the fact that Quintez Cephas is now out probably for the year with a broken collarbone. That'd be Amon-Ra St. Brown, only owned in 19% of leagues out there. Like you said, Cephas probably out for the year, but St. Brown has racked up back-to-back weeks with 8 targets. He's starting to get things grooving with that offense and with Jared Goff. And now here we are, the Bengals, the Rams, and the Eagles on tap. The Lions are going to have to throw the ball because that defense is not going to be able to keep up with any of those offenses. It's just a matter of time that he hits pay dirt. He hasn't hit pay dirt yet, but it is just a matter of time, and I would jump on St. Brown now before things start to get a little ugly down the road here, and the pool starts to dry up in 1 to 2 weeks. So I think he's a solid pickup at wide receiver.
I just want to piggyback your point there with I think Kadarius Toney's another guy. Last week we touched on it briefly, and he went off last week. I mean, granted, he punched a dude in the face, but he's rostered in 31% of the leagues, and he's got, speaking of having to throw the ball, but he's got the Rams, he's got the Panthers, and he's got the Chiefs. So he's another guy, as I said, rostered in 31%. So you got a chance out there, spend some bread. Or if you old school, hopefully you got a good waiver claim and everyone's trying to get running backs, and you can sneak in and get a guy like, Tony or St. Brown and, do your thing.
Yeah. And I mean, Tony was getting it done with Mike Glennon as his quarterback. So that tells you all you need to know about can Kadarius Toney play football. I mean, he's a first-round pick. And it's funny because you even look at the draft status of him. In fantasy, I mean, you could have got him for free. He wasn't even getting drafted. And here we are, addition by subtraction. Galladay might be out. Another injury to Kenny Galladay. I don't know what the hell's happening there.
I read up to 6 weeks with respects to injuries in my little injury report I did today. 6 weeks, man.
Man, he cannot stay healthy to save his life. Sterling Shepard out. You have Slayton out as well. So really, it's the Kadarius Toney show in New York. So definitely.
He's fun to watch. Yeah,
he is fun to watch. He's a
13 targets, 10 catches, 189 yards. I mean, he even threw a pass. He had a carry. I mean, the guy does it all. And he said, he's like, you got a Ferrari, you might as well drive it, or whatever his quote was. And he's right. I mean, shit, he's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's going out there and he's trying to ball out. So I give him credit, and hopefully go out and snag him.
Absolutely. It's definitely looking like there are more big weeks to come out of Kadarius Toney. Let's go to running back.
Sure.
I feel like there's a homer pick here. Do you have the homer pick written down?
He's on my list, so I'm going to let you go ahead.
Okay.
Go first, and then I'll go with another running back. How about that?
Well, I've got 2. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. So you go first. Go ahead.
All right. Khalil Herbert is the guy. He surprised the hell out of me on Sunday against the Raiders. 18 carries, 75 yards. He actually outsnapped Damien Williams. That was not expected whatsoever, but you look at the tape, you look at how he ran the ball, he looked like the better runner.
It was impressive. Yeah. The eye test for sure, right? I mean, that was you're 100% right on that, Stephen. That's a great call. And did you say he's rostered like 20, 21%?
21% of leagues right now.
Wow.
Everybody was on Damien Williams last week, but I think it's a situation in which you got to look at Khalil Herbert as a guy that can get things moving. And they're not going to run the ball as much as they probably did last week against the Raiders, Tampa, unless they get control of that game. They've got the Packers, they've got the Bucks, and they've got the Niners. Middle of the road, Bucks are really good at stopping the run, but they're not great whatsoever at stopping the receiving backs. So that's something to keep in mind. And Khalil Herbert also putting up a crazy yards before contact number. I think it's at like 3.8, which if he gets enough carries and is eligible to be ranked in that would be, I believe, 3rd in the league. So I don't know if it's the offense, the offensive line that's helping him there, or if he's just very shifty.
Ooh, I got offered a trade just now, Stephen.
Uh-oh.
Scary Terry for Joe Mixon. I have Mixon.
I want Scary Terry.
But my
I
running
don't
backs
like
are
Joe
hurt.
Mixon. I hate Joe Mixon.
I know you talked about your love affair for him last week.
Yeah, give me McLaurin.
I don't have a single running back to. Oh, I could play. But my
About
wide
it.
receivers are Thielen, Nuke, Higgins, Sutton.
Oh, that's deep.
Jacoby Myers and Julio Jones.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah. No.
That's tough, right?
Don't need to get richer in a spot that's
Yeah.
Forget
I
that.
need the
And
running back.
that just causes issues.
By the way, the team that we almost did the trade last week, I put a can of ass whooping out on somebody, open one up and put a number on somebody. So it's a good thing we didn't make any moves.
Stand
so I appreciate it.
Standing pat. Who's your running
Logan
back?
doesn't like that. He wants to make a trade. Look at him. Logan's in. Sorry.
You're good.
All right.
Who's your running back?
Well, you talked about Darrell Williams, right? Rostered
Yep.
19% of the league. You know, it's Washington, Tennessee, and the Giants. You know, I'm going to go with we talked about cutting Damien Harris. I think Stevenson, rostered in 16% of the leagues, is a guy to pick up. I think he's a guy that it looks like it's his turn. Harris fumbled again. And I think what he have 9 carries, 23 yards, which isn't great, but he broke several tackles, had a touchdown. So he's making some plays, you know.
He's a rookie. You know, Belichick not necessarily a rookie running back guy.
In terms of adding a running back, he's a guy I think now that, you know, as we move the season along, as the rookies start to show their mettle and what they're worth, he's a guy that Belichick seems to be liking. Granted, Harris kind of played himself out of his role, I guess, if you will. But next man up. And it looks like Steven, you know, it's his turn. So he's a guy you may not have to spend much money on. But like I said, rostered in less than 16% of the leagues. So go ahead and make a play there.
Yeah, no, there's actually another running back that I kind of like in deeper leagues, your 14, 16 teams.
Talk to me.
That's Brandon Bolden, staying in New England. Brandon Bolden, he's had 13 receptions in his last 3 games. Seems like he's taken over that James White role in that offense. And Cowboys and the Jets are not good against receiving running backs. So
and they got the Chargers.
Deeper leagues, something to keep in mind there.
Rostered in 17% of the league. So there's, you know, an opportunity out there to get him as well. So, and these are players you're not going to spend a bunch of fab on, right? I mean, I think you'll be able to either play your cards, right? Don't be like me and shoot your load on 2 guys in back-to-back weeks, but whatever. But yeah, I think you can play your cards right. Yeah, I got enough for the playoffs now. I'm looking okay. I'm sitting there in the first place tie over there.
Tight end, what you got?
We talked about him. You know, I think in Jaku, I think he's a guy who is available 4%, right? Had week 1, 3 catches, 76 yards, and then he kind of just was non-existent, if you will. But week 5 against the Chargers, like you talked about, he caught all 7 targets, $149 in a tud. I like that. And right now, with the way tight ends are going, he's playing the Cardinals. They do have a tough tight end defense, you know. But to that point, I think he's a guy that if you need a tight end and want to take a chance and not even put a claim in, pick him up tomorrow morning, I think you could do that.
Yeah, I'd say that's a sneaky play in terms of I think there's been enough fantasy players that have been burned by David Njoku that he won't be a hot commodity. But again, if he can finally put it together here and just get some consistency, you know, obviously coming off of that performance on Sunday against the Chargers helps, you know, kind of get things moving in the right direction and pick up some steam. But definitely the opportunity there for him to step it up again and kind of solidify himself as the option over Austin Hooper, who's really not done a whole hell of a lot since they picked him up from Atlanta just 2 years ago. I'm going to stay in the AFC.
Okay.
With this one as well, actually a recent trade acquisition for this team, and it is Dan Arnold with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's in just 7% of rostered teams right now, but it seems like he's going to be a big piece of this Jacksonville offense. He led the Jaguars in every offensive receiving category on Sunday. That's targets, it's receptions, it's yards. Apparently, Trevor Lawrence really likes targeting the tight end position for whatever reason, and Dan Arnold is going to be the main recipient of those targets. It's going to work out over due time. You have Miami and Seattle. They've both allowed 3 touchdowns to tight ends this year. That's second most in the league. Those are his next 2 opponents. There seems to be brewing. We know that Jacksonville's going to have to throw the ball. They have not been great. Urban Meyer has that team in shambles right now, and it's just a mess. And you're going to watch Trevor Lawrence just dink and dunk his way down the field instead of trying to progress through all of his reads. That's all that he's been this season thus far, and Dan Arnold's going to be the guy that he continues to look to. And Dan Arnold fumbled last week, and it didn't even affect his playing time on the field. They just said, all right, here you go. Here's some more targets. Here's some more catches. It's going to happen again. And so having that built-in floor goes a long way, especially at tight end. So it's definitely somebody that I like down the road here, especially heading into a few bye weeks if you're working through a rough patch or two.
It's a good call. I like that.
Quarterback, you got anybody?
So, sleeper wise, let's see. I got to think about it, to be honest. I like Brissett against Jacksonville or Taylor Heineke against the Chiefs. 2 guys I think you may be able to, if you're streaming, stay away from Derek Carr, to be honest. But I think those are 2 players you could think about grabbing, getting your hands on. I like Taylor Heineke. He's had, I think, 2 out of 4 weeks where he scored over 30 points in fantasy, which, speaking of Scary Terry, he's got some players over there that he can throw the ball to.
He does.
And I think those are 2 guys to think about. Jacoby's going to have to throw. Not that I'm high on any Dolphin like we talked about, but, they're playing Jacksonville. That's a JV team in the NFL. So teams are going out and they're putting up some numbers. I think the Chiefs, they spell well for fantasy players. So, anytime you need a rebound, you go to play Kansas City and, you hope you can do something. So those are the 2 quarterbacks. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm on the Heineke train with you. Like you mentioned, Kansas City has not been great whatsoever. Most fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, but the other thing, and the surprising thing, specifically about Taylor Heineke, not necessarily about Kansas City, because we know that they've just sucked this year on defense, is the fact that Heineke's shown this ability to run the ball pretty successfully over the last couple weeks. Last 2 weeks, he's had 40 or more rushing yards, and Kansas City just happens to allow the most rushing yards to opposing signal callers. So he might be able to sneak himself out of the pocket, get himself a little bit of ground game action, as well as, again, you're going up against a Chiefs team that's trying to avoid going 2-4.
Yeah.
You're going to get a very angry offense, very angry Patrick Mahomes. The fact that the Washington defense has not lived up to expectations whatsoever, we're looking at a shootout, I think, between Washington and Kansas City this week. If there's another one of those matchups in mind where we could see like 41-35 or something like we saw with Browns and Chargers, it's probably this matchup. So very excited to see it. All right. That is all we have. Do we have do we have any questions in the chat we want to catch?
I don't know. Not sure. Any players you don't like this week? I know I said Derek Carr. What, Chris Carson if he plays. What about Ezekiel Elliott? Will you play him?
I think Zeke's back. I think that's a situation.
Against New England?
Yeah. I'd play him. I don't have any issue there whatsoever.
What about
I saw
AJ
we
Brown coming
saw
back?
this. I saw we saw this earlier. Harris or Singletary.
They're trying to make a trade, but I think they're trying to talk trade, to be honest with
are
you.
they?
I saw it. They're trying to talk for Herbert. I see some deals here being spoken about.
See what is this with people not being able to use direct? I had this issue in the one up league.
Oh, direct message for Trey. Hey, Logan wants us to talk about Trey Lance. What about Trey Lance?
I'm not sold on him.
Nah,
I'm not. I don't think he's. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's a reliable option. I can't put any money on him whatsoever to go out and get things moving. What was this one? My league gives full points for return yard. Should I pick up Jamal Agnew since he's getting the targets now, plus the Jags D to double up if he gets a return touchdown? I mean, if the points are significant, I know that there's some leagues where it's like a half a point for every 10 yards or even 25 yards or something ridiculous.
Oh wow!
I don't think that's enough to warrant. I don't know what necessarily it is for the points there, but something significant to the point of like you're averaging it off with a point for every 10 yards in return. I'd say that's definitely an option to put up there.
Okay, he's got a free spot, so he's thinking, why not?
Okay.
Not bad move.
And then Wentz,
streaming wise
Wentz this week, playing the Texans.
Davis Mills versus Carson Wentz sounds like a big gunslinger.
Prime time. I think it's a solid option. I think that the Colts have.
I thought he looked great last night. Just saying.
I think they're going to get pissed. I think they're going to be pissed, honestly, with the way that they gave up that game.
They're not a 1-4 team. I mean, they've got a tough schedule. They've definitely had some really close losses. Granted, but Wentz is playing with like 3 sprained ankles. So it's like, what the fuck are we doing? You got to be healthy. So,
I mean, thankfully for the Colts, the AFC South is horrific this year. Yeah. So that should help them, give them a little bit more motivation to get things turned around. But yeah, I like Wentz as a play this week against Houston for sure.
Okay.
Yes, don't talk trade in the open chat. That absolutely. Table talk is not allowed. I don't care.
I make a comment here. Not. I made a comment on the show, and look at Logan trying to swoop in and make some trade.
Come on.
I like it. Any other sleepers? Anybody you think we didn't talk about? I know I'm kind of rattling here, but Stream Bengals defense against Detroit. That's my last one.
Last one for me. Another tight end to pick up for a couple week play here until Logan Thomas comes back. That's Ricky Seals-Jones.
Okay.
I've been waiting for him to do something for it seems like 10 years now since he's bounced around the league, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. But Chiefs very bad against the tight end, along with everything else on the defensive side of the ball. Played all but 1 snap last week against New Orleans. So he's on the field. He had 5 catches for 41 yards, and Taylor Heineke tends to look that way rather often in this offense.
When you got Leno trying to block for you, you got to run for your life. So
exactly.
You're looking for your tight end somewhere.
Yeah, and only owned in 4% of leagues out there. So, I mean, he's sitting out there in just about every single league imaginable. So go out and grab him if you're needing some help there as well, and if things are looking a little bleak on the waiver wire or even your own roster at the positions. So who knows? We'll see if these tight ends can keep it up. We'll see if we might be in store for another wild offensive week in week 6. Like we said, now with bye weeks well underway, but it's I said, the fun time of the
year. I feel for those Russell Wilson owners. You hope he's a quick healer. Geno Smith, he's out there if you need to pick up his backup. But but yeah. So, but I read today they're looking at maybe a 4-week timetable than an 8-week. So
that's only positive news for Seattle out there, and especially
get special water or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, anyone even rostering DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett too, because God forbid you get to put up with 2
last
months
one right
of
here
Geno
for Nate.
Smith. All right. Got to start 2. Khalil Herbert, Javonte Williams, or Brandon Bolden. Herbert and Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I Brandon Bolden's getting that work, but I the other two
One
have
more week, right? Let's see if you get it another week, then I think Bolden would definitely, if we had the same conundrum next week, we may look at it a little different, sitting Williams and starting Bolden.
Yep.
That's my opinion, but
Yeah, no, the floors are higher for Herbert and Williams.
Yeah.
I'd go there. Bolden's a risky play, even though he is getting that PPR work in the passing game there. So, yeah, that's the last of the chat questions, and that is the last of what we have to cover here on One Up Fantasy. We do appreciate every single one of you tuning in or listening to the podcast. If you are checking us out after we have wrapped things up here on this lovely Tuesday evening, it is Bears Packers week. It's rivalry week at Soldier Field. Do not forget to tune in to Keeping It 100 tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central with Phil and Shane as they break everything down. Bears, Packers. They have Kaplan. They have Eric Kramer. They've got a big show lined up for the biggest game of the season yet. So should be a good one. Very excited to see that turn out. And then, as always, like Jackal, you mentioned a little bit earlier, Bears Hour Live following the Bears-Packers game. Phil will be on site at Soldier Field for that one with BHL. That'll be a fun one.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a time. If you're at Soldier Field at the game on Sunday, there's a tailgate happening in the South lot, so do check that out. It's going to be a fun
say
time
hello
with the full TTNL crew. So very, very excited. And we're finally getting to meet in person, and that's weird.
Yeah.
That I'm sitting here talking to you in a picture for months, and hey, we're advancing things.
Hello. There it is. The pandemic real person meet. It's great. You could actually do these things nowadays. We're finally getting through these good times. So it's going to be a blast, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Should be a hell of a game. Should be a hell of a week with plenty to talk about, but we will be back with more fantasy talk next Tuesday, same time, same place, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, right here on Shy City Sports and the Tape Never Lies Network. So until then, for Chris Jackal, I'm Stephen Johnson. Thank you for tuning in and listening, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.